So the next step, now that we've been solving these equations, is to use them for something. We're going to start looking more into problem solving. When we look at problem solving, first easiest types of problems we can work on are problems where there's a set formula, and all we have to do is plug numbers into it. For example, we might have your pay is equal to your wage times your hours. So let's say that your wage, you earn $11 per hour and need to make $187 this week. How many hours do you need to work? Okay, so all we have to do is substitute our numbers into the formula. Do we know P? Do we know the amount of pay?
No.
Nope, $187. So we're going to replace P with $187. Do we know W, the wage?
Yes.
Yeah, $11. So we're going to put 11 in for W. H then must be what we're looking for. H is how many hours, and that's what we're looking for, is how many hours do we need? So we're going to divide by 11, and yes, it is 17.
Yeah, right? I was writing, so I wasn't like...
Right. So we're solving this, we're going to divide by 11. So that leaves us just H over here. 187 divided by 11 is 17. It's 17 hours you need to work. Or you might have a formula like gallons of gas required is equal to miles divided by miles per gallon. So let's say that we have a vehicle who our car gets 28 miles per gallon, and we want to know how far can we go on 588 gallon. Did I do that right? I did that wrong. 588 gallons, that's a little excessive. Sorry. Oh, well, how far can we go on a 16-gallon tank? That's a little better. Sorry about that. So let's looking at this here. Do we know G? Do we know the number of gallons we're going to use? Bless you. Yeah, 16 gallons. 16 goes in for capital G. Do we know the miles? No, we do not. Miles, we either make it X or I can just leave the word miles in there. It doesn't matter. Divided by, do we know the MPG? Yes. Well, we better, because we're going to only have one missing number, right? So what we're looking at here is it's miles divided by 28. So how do we take this apart? Times 28, right? Leaves the miles by itself. I could just put M in there for miles if you're better off just having a single variable than the whole word. So now I have to have 16 times 28. 448 miles. Why is that? 28 miles per gallon, not miles per hour. Look at simple interest. Formula for simple interest. The amount of interest is equal to the principal times the rate, that's just the decimal form of a percent, times the time in years. So let's say that we have $180 in interest when we have a 3% investment for 2 years. We want to know how much money did we start out with. Well, now as we start putting in here, we know I is $180. That's our interest. The principal is what we're trying to find, P. R is 0.03. 3% is 0.03. T is 2 years, so just 2. Now for this one, before we can solve it, we have to combine the 0.03 and the 2. That is 0.06. Now I realize we haven't done much with decimals yet, so this is maybe a little bit off.
Would it be 2.03?
No, it's times, not plus. You're thinking plus.
Okay.
So now we're going to divide by 0.06 to get 3,000. That's our principal. That's a $3,000 investment gave you 180. The other way around.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it. You're okay. Another formula, our profit is equal to total sales minus total cost. So if we have an item that we purchase for $8 each, and sell for $24 each, how many do we need to sell to reach, what do I put in there? $272. So in this formula, obviously the profit is $272. Total sales. Well, what are we trying to find here? We're trying to find how many do we need to sell. We're gonna let that be X. Yeah, how many we sold. Well, total sales is the money from the sales. That would be the number sold times what we charged. So that would be $24 times X. Because we sold X items at $24 each. So the total sales is the price times the number sold. Minus the total cost, which would be the cost times the number sold. We're assuming the number purchased is the same as the number we sold. So the cost is 8 times however many there were. The sales is 24 times however many there were. Now what do? Combine the 24x and the negative 8x, which is 16x. And then divide by 16, which gives us 17. X equals 17. So you'd have to sell 17 of them to get a profit of $270. What do you think? Better than a sharp stick in the eye? Think I did it the hard way? Well, a lot of...
Look at the phrase and see what you have to divide by that.
Well, yeah, and with these simple problems, a lot of times it's almost harder to do the equations because, yeah, you can look at the problem, you just know how to do it. You know, like the simple interest, maybe you had to use the formula, but like miles per gallon, well, everybody knows you just take the number of gallons to the miles per gallon, you just multiply them to get the miles. You know, trying to put it in the formula is more work than just figuring it out. I mean, when we first start out with problem solving, that's very, very true. Trying to find the equation can be just frustrating because, well, I already know the answer. Why do I have to find the equation? But if you can find the equation for the simpler ones, that helps you now as they get more and more complex, finding an equation for more complex ones. Because we will run into some where if you don't have an equation, it's going to take you a long, long time to solve.
Or if you just know the answer and you try to find the equation.
Or if you just know the answer and plug it in and make sure it works, that works too. There is a valid problem-solving strategy called guess and check. Or if you just look at it and you think you know the answer has to be really close to something, and you just try it and see if it works, and if it's too big, you make it a little smaller, try it again. Too small, make it a little bigger, try it again. That's a perfectly valid way of solving problems. It's a little bit more work. Sometimes it's time-consuming, but if you struggle putting stuff from the problem into a formula, sometimes it's quicker to do it that way for some people. Let's look at something a little more complex. Let's say that the perimeter of a rectangle is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. If a rectangle has a width of 7 and a perimeter of 44, find length. So put 44 in for P. We don't know the length. We know the width is 7. So this is 2 times W, it's 2 times 7. Now before we solve this, we do have to combine the 2 times 7. So 14. Now what do we do? Plus. First step, minus 14, good. So 30 equals 2 times L, and then a 2. So 15 equals L. So you can see, sometimes plugging into the formula is very helpful. It gets to be more complicated. This is one that would be kind of tough to work through without the formula. You could still do it, it'd just be more difficult. Any questions? Well, that problem-solving part went better than I thought it would. So we are actually done with new material. There is a new quiz due tomorrow, due Thursday at 11:59 p.m. The first test, I think, is January 28th or something like that. So it's coming up next Thursday or something like that, next Wednesday. Homework 2 is actually due today sometime. But there'll be a new homework at 6 o'clock. Then there'll be a new homework due on Monday. Yeah, your first test, I think, is actually next Wednesday or Thursday coming up already. This is a new one, yep. Did everybody get the first quiz taken on Tuesday?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to.
Okay.
I don't remember
Even though my
taking it.
entire was low.
Okay.
It was 10 numbers. Just 10 numbers.
There's only 10 problems.
When's that new homework due?
The new homework's due on Monday.